like brittle, hard, you could just snap them and then just work with them, and they were
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
But, you know, all these things don't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Times change,
Yeah.
as you're well aware,
Yeah, too right.
which is why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Change, yeah.
So look, your story is you were obviously a miner at some point.
Yep.
Had you had a multivarious career, or?
Yeah, I mean, when I left school, I started as I served my apprenticeship as a motor mechanic. So took my City and Guilds as a motor mechanic, but we lived in Retford in Nottinghamshire.
Oh, right.
And my mother wanted to move to Doncaster, so I ended up packing in at the garage and coming to Doncaster, and we lived just literally 200 yards over there.
Really?
Yeah, and
The house still there?
yeah, and I just wanted to earn money,
Yeah.
and at that time, cheers Dan, at that time mining was a bit better money than being a mechanic.
What time is this?
71 I went down. I started, I was 19, I went down a bit. I was earning roughly about maybe £5, £6 a week at the garage, and I think after I'd completed my training I was on about £20 odd a week, something like that, £25 a week. So it was a big increase in your wages.
God.
Just from...
What, 3 or 4 times?
Yeah, straight away.
And was that, I mean, at the time, was that like a known kind of, that was a main attraction?
It was a, yeah, I think so.
Everyone goes, if you can get down underground,
yeah.
you're making money.
You had some money. And mine, when I first went down, I mean, I just went down as a basic labourer, for want of a better word, which is one of the easy jobs, which is just pushing buttons. And I did that for so long with the view that I wanted to earn more money. And then I found out that you could earn more money by carrying the girders down to the coalface, which was big heavy stuff. You know, you had to, for building the rings.
Yeah, RSJ you're talking about, eh?
Yeah. So you'd carry them on your
I mean,
shoulders.
heavy. What, 6 foot lengths?
Yeah, be 6 foot curved, and then the curved piece on top, and all the materials
And
down
what are they
there.
called? These are the arches that you walk through. What are they called?
They're just rings.
Rings.
Yeah.
Because someone at Stainforth Club
Yeah.
pulled me to the side, and got me to the bar, and said, "This is what you want to make.
Yeah.
You want to make, is it a ring erector? A
Yeah.
bloke that puts the rings up?"
Yeah.
And he drew me
Yeah.
the sculpture of a
Said
guy
they know, yeah.
holding up the rings.
Yeah.
And it said,
that-
you are that guy.
Well, I used to do getting the materials to them.
Right.
So there used to be 3 of us, but that was even more money than the basic
Really?
job. Yeah.
Right, okay.
So getting it to them, but it was donkey work. Like it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
hard work.
Right.
But I don't know how it came about. But I must have been talking at some point or other, and they knew I was a qualified fitter, mechanic.
Yeah.
So the head fitter came and approached me one day, and he said, "Will you come and work on my team?" And straight away I said, "Well, what's money like?"
Yeah.
And it was more money again.
Well.
So that's how I ended up on fitting team. And I mean, I did shifts for so long, but not. They wanted somebody who they could rely on for days regular, and that was going down pit at 5 o'clock every morning. And with all due, minus 9 times out of 10, there'd only be one fitter on each shift, you see, for each coal face. And they'd probably work for 2 and then have a day off, and then work for 1 and then have another day off. So there was always short of men on the day's shift.
And this is when things like market men get involved, is it?
Yeah. So basically, I started for the first, well, for the rest of the time, I was he knew he could rely on me going out pit every day, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So if there was anybody short on whichever coal face, they sent me.
Right.
And I just covered that shift or next 2 shifts, and then went home. And that, if all the coal faces were staffed up, it'd send me wherever, you know, different places down the mines, doing different jobs, and that's how I just progressed from it.
So you became a known figure.
Yeah, I think they knew I would turn up every morning, whatever.
Yeah.
And I used to walk literally from my house down to the bus station, I mean, bus station's still there now, to be fair. It's changed a lot, but I used to walk there at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you'd come up out at pit at 1:15, you see, so you've got rest at day to yourself and rest at night.
Right.
But it was tiring going up at 4 in the morning every morning, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
But I
6
enjoyed
day
it, to be fair. Yeah, I used to work every Saturday as well. That
So
used
this
to
is
be time and a half.
You're seriously motivated.
I was for money.
When is that? So
Yeah.
really, I mean,
It was all
your
money.
ambition, your intention, your
Yeah.
everything was money. I mean,
Yeah.
is that what was the reason for that? Is it because you hadn't had it in the past? The family
Yeah.
hadn't had it.
No.
You knew what life was like
Skin.
without money.
Yeah, totally skinned, yeah. I mean, we lived at, when we moved here, there was just me, my mother and my sister. And my sister
happened to
just
your
had a
father?
baby. They divorced when I
Good.
was 9.
Right.
So there were just me, my mother and my sister. And we were just in a rented house just round the corner.
Well, it sounds to me as like you almost had the sense of responsibility as well. Then.
Well, yeah, because there was only me working.
Yeah. So you kind of became the man of the house at the
Yeah.
age of
19.
19.
Yeah.
So the motivation wasn't entirely money.
Well, I wanted a car, and
Right.
I wanted things, and
So when
you only get things like that if you work.
so as a son, going home at night with your wage packet,
Mm-hmm.
do you go to your mum? Here's my wage packet, or do you go, here, mum, I'll give you £5.
No, I gave me a
I'm
wage
going to buy
packet.
a car. Really?
She got me wage packet for, I would say, for probably the first 12 months.
Right.
Mm.
And how did that feel?
How did it?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't really know anybody. I didn't know anybody in Doncaster, full stop, so I weren't into going out. It
Right.
didn't bother me. And I just looked at it as it's a roof over my head, and it's
Forward
feeding
looking.
us, and yeah, you know, and things will progress, you know, if you work out.
Yeah,
I mean, I was telling Danny one particular story, because when I first went out mines, I knew, because we'd only just moved to Doncaster, I didn't know anybody, nobody knew me, and whenever they saw me on pit top, they didn't recognise me, because I used to have long hair. But whenever I was out pit, you used to have to wear an hairnet, and I used to
Oh, I
stick
see.
all mine in my helmet, so they never ever recognised me.
So you're a bit of a glam rocker.
Yeah, just a bit, yeah. And at
I'm
Brodsworth-
building a nice picture here.
at Brodsworth Pit, there was it was a big, really big car park. So you'd come up out of the pit on the Friday, whatever shift you was on, and you'd take your lamp check. You'd go up to wages window, and they'd give you your wages. And then I'd make my way over to the car park, catch bus home.
We'll walk around you.
And this particular Friday, picked my wages up, and had a quick look at them, and walked across the car park. It was dark, and there's hundreds of people walking across this car park. So at its peak, I think there were about 2,000 miners that worked at Broddy.
Brodsworth.
Yeah, and I got to the bus stop, and there'd be 100, 200 people all there queuing for buses as they were coming in, and they, as bus came in, I went to get my money out there, and I'd lost my wages.
Oh, shoot. God.
And I just couldn't believe it. I mean, it's just nothing in my pocket. Well, I started panicking, and I'd come out at queue and walk back across car park, and it's dark, and there's loads of people crossing car park and what have you. And anyway, I found my wage slip and my wage packet, but nothing in it, obviously. Well, I felt like crying.
Yeah.
But anyway, I bumped into somebody who I knew, and he come and helped me look for it, and we walked all over the place, backwards and forwards, never ever found it. And I mean, the pit used to be at Woodlands, which is, I don't know, 5 or 6 miles away, but so I'd got no money to get back home. And he says, come on, so I'll give you a lift home. Anyway, I had to come home and tell my mum that's no money and what have you. And I hadn't been down pit very long at that point, and nobody really knew me on Coalface. That was it. Because if you was on 3 shifts, you get to work with that team of men, week in, week out, whatever shift you're on, it's the same team of men. As I was on it. I never really worked with the same team a lot of times. I just work on my own. And anyway, when I went back to work the week after, this lad had obviously told somebody else and what have you. And all the people who was on that shift with me on that particular week, they all put money in, every single one of them. And none of them knew me.
Really?
But I was on their gang, so to speak. I was on their shift. And I ended up probably with double wages that week, because there weren't anybody who hadn't put anything in. And they didn't know me from Adam, but that was just sort of what we were like.
That's incredible.
And because I'd lost my wages.
and as well as obviously being a great amazing gesture, you suddenly become a part of a family.
Right. Yeah.
That moment.
Yeah.
You were
Totally.
in.
Oh yeah, totally.
And loyalty.
And I just thanked every one of them, and it was just unreal to me, because I just never expected anything like that at all. And I never ever forgot that. You know, it was just, for somebody who you're not used to having that sort of thing done for him, it was just, it was special.
You remind me of when I was in on holiday in France, and we went to the Louvre Museum.
Oh yeah.
And we were in there, and I had my money, obviously. I was in the shop. We got out, got into a taxi with a family, all of the family got into a taxi, and just about to start off, and I just checked, my wallet had gone. I said, oh, bugger. Sorry, I said, look, taxi driver, I'm really sorry, the wallet's gone. Damn. I've got a family, I've got to get the other side of Paris. No money, no cars, nothing. Sugar. And the guy said, well, I said, look, can I just run into the Louvre, which was closing?
Yeah.
So I ran to the big glass pyramid, knocked on the door of a like an alien thing, like knocked on this pyramid, and there was a cleaner in the bottom. Go, what do you want? Yeah, bugger off, you know. I said, no, I need to get in. So in the end, after about half an hour, he let me in. I said, my wallet's gone. I really need to find that. Can I go to the shop and see if I left it at the till? Yeah. It's not there. So they had to call security, and it went on for about an hour. And the top guy of security eventually came down because I would not move. My kids and family were in a taxi outside, and I think, what the hell am I going to do? So basically, the guy comes down, we look around, no wallet, and I just, beside myself. Yeah. The cleaner, once the guy's gone, he says, you better go now. I says, yeah, I suppose so. And the cleaner goes, how are you going to get home? I said, I have no idea. Yeah. And he got his money out, he got his wallet out, and he gave me 30 euros. Yeah. I said, no, don't do that. Don't. He goes, no, you have my money. I said, no, I can't. He goes, have my money. I said, no. He said, look, when I was in Saudi or something, he was a French, but he was making it up. An Englishman got me out of a big load of trouble in the desert, and I've always said that I will, whenever I see someone in trouble, I will repay it. Yeah. And he says, here's the money. It's not because of you, it's because of what happened to me. And I went, oh, God. Incredible. Oh, Jesus. So thank you.
Emotional.
Got into the taxi, and we went off to northern Paris, and this guy in the taxi had been waiting for us for all night, lost all his fares. About 10 o'clock at night, we eventually got there, and I said, thank you so much, here's the money. This guy gave me the money, and it's just brilliant. I don't know how much it is, but please take it. He says, I don't want your money. I said, no, this is not how it works. And he goes, no, you go home. I said, no, please. Right. I can't handle this generosity, And he wouldn't let it take me money. So I had this guy's money.
So you got money and a free ride home as well.
What am I going to do? So now the law is now, this is an opportunity. Every time I have an opportunity, I tell someone the story. Yeah. And if I'm lucky enough or unlucky enough to come across someone who is asking, I make sure I tell them this story and then I give them the money. Yeah. And it kind of, just like your story,
that's right.
It kind of carries on in a strange way.
Yeah. Well, I can remember one, I was telling Danny about it, I'd been working down there a while, and they wanted me to go down to another seam, another coal face further down, and about half a mile down. But it was a low coal face, very low.
Deep?
About height of these chairs.
Oh, he's in the face? Right,
yeah.
Bloody hell. Really?
Yeah, about that. So it's 200 yards long.
That's because there's not enough coal above it.
It's just the depth of the coal seam. There was like Barnsley seam, could be about 5 or 6 foot high of a stream of coal. The Dunstall and Thorncliffe seam could only be maybe that high.
Jesus Christ.
And I took this apprentice down, and got this apprentice with me for a day, and it was about 5 mile out, 4 or 5 mile out, and then you had to hike another mile to coalface. And this coalface was sealed off, in so much as that nobody was working on that. They just wanted, they needed bits of equipment off it, which
I
is
see.
a bit more valuable. So they'd send me down, I'd dismantle it all, unbolt this, unbolt that, take all hydraulics off, and leave it there, and then next shifts, 2 or 3 men would go down and take out what I've unbolted and dismantled. But this coal face is like 200 yards long, and you're laid on your belly.
Wow.
So you have to crawl along the coal face, and you have to move your gas mask to one side and your battery to the other, and just drag your tool bag along it from one, and just dismantling different things as we're going along. But all the time the weight's coming on, you know, the roof's caving in round you. You're under the chair sort of thing, but it's caving in at the back of you, so it's loud.
What?
It gets loud.
So you've gone in, hey, let's just go back a little step here. You've gone into a lonely tunnel, basically by yourself, which is disused.
No, I've got an apprentice with me.
And you've got a little boy with you. And you're away from the teams because they're in another district. So there's an incredible sense of loneliness, I suppose, in a sense.
So it's quiet.
And an incredible sense of impending kind of danger and doom. And you're walking into a... How deep is this?
You're laid on it.
You said about the chair, didn't you?
Yeah, you'd literally eye to that chair. You'd be laid, and you'd pull yourself along with your battery in your tool bag, 200 yards. And that where at the back of the chair, that's what caves in behind you. Whenever
give me a break.
whenever
No. You're joking. It's like a living tomb.
it's dark. Yeah, it's dark. But it's just what you're used to. You just get on with it. But while you're under there, you're safe as long as.
Well, what's all this breaking down, collapsing business then? Where's all that?
Well, as the coal
That's
face,
the back of the coal face.
yeah, as the coal face is moving, as that's going forward, and the 200, a lot of these supports, what you're in,
Yeah.
as that moves forward, everything behind, call it gob,
In the gob.
that just caves in.
So,
That just
okay,
seems
so say the chair's the tunnel, the
Yeah.
back of the chair's the gob.
Yep.
So there's a big cave behind you, and
Yeah.
as you're walking along,
Crawling
you've got a
along.
wall on your right-hand side, which is the face. You're going
Yeah.
crawling along on
Yeah.
your belly.
Yeah.
That side of the face is going crack, fall,
Yeah.
fall, and it's down over there, 100 yards ahead of you, 100 yards behind. You hear,
Yep.
and then you carry on, and you go,
Yep.
and you go, where's the?
Yep.
Is it
That's
up?
it?
And then you carry on, and it's like nothing.
Yeah.
So there's an incredible kind of nervous tension, but you're used to it, so you're not.
Yeah. So you just get on, yeah. 'Cause
But are there any props under this thing? Is there any reason why the gob should collapse and not the coal face that you're in?
yeah, you're under.
You're under a bridge of
yeah
protected
steel. I got
steel.
it ramps. Yeah.
They're still in place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm feeling a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Sometimes
it,
it didn't drop straight away, didn't it?
Oh, yeah,
You
it
said,
could be-
sometimes
could be
it
2
moved.
minutes after, it could be 2 hours after, it could be 2 days after. You could peer back into the gob, and you could just see a big open cavern, and you're just waiting for that boom as it comes down.
And then the dust
Yeah, oh yeah,
and the pressure of air, I presume,
yeah.
coming
It's
into
loud.
wafting you. Is it
Yeah.
hot air?
Yeah.
Cold air?
Yeah.
So it's like a
usually-
warm...
It's hot on coal face.
Right. So
It
it's
was
like-
where we were, but some, like the drift mine where Keith worked, it was cold down his mine, but I
And
just,
what's the reasons for different temperatures, and why would you be hot and he be cold?
his was a drift mine, so he
What's a
walked
drift
into
mine?
it like a slope.
Egress. He was talking about egress, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he
that's-
walked up the egress.
Yeah, you're walking down to it, like with a coal mine, you know, a deep shaft mine. The reason you'll have two shafts, the top of the one which is like sealed is like a big fan, and it'll pull all the air, all the stale
Right.
air around the mines, and there'll be different air doors and what have you, so it keeps that air circulating all the time. If that fan ever breaks down, you
So-
won't be able to breathe.
It's a bit like my runner and riser system in the
Yeah,
mould.
yeah,
So I've
exactly.
got runners going in,
Yeah.
air coming out,
Exactly the
and I
same.
push bonds in. Whatever.
Yeah,
Someone has obviously designed
Yeah.
this ventilation system,
Yeah.
which is
and it
it's
goes
designed
around
with
miles and miles of.
and a massive fan at
Yeah.
one point will be pushing air in.
It's dragging it up, so it's dragging it down the open,
Oh, okay.
open shaft and expelling it out of the closed shaft. And in different places to keep that air regulating, they'll have what they call air doors. And when you open them, you could feel the air, your ears would pop when you open them. It's like going up in a plane.
So could you cause damage to the mine or to yourself if you were not qualified and understood the opening and closing of doors?
Oh yeah, you've got to make sure that you close the doors, without a doubt, yeah.
Right.
Some of the air doors was propped open maybe with a piece of wood, maybe 2 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, and that was all done to regulate the airflow into different parts of the pit.
So was there specific characters charged with controlling air?
No.
There was no one whose job was to make sure air
No.
was flowing?
No, you were just down to
Common
just down
sense?
to you, yeah.
But it
If that,
strikes me-
if that door was closed, you'd make sure you close it afterwards, after you've gone through
Okay, I
it.
got you.
And if it was half open, you'd leave it that way.
Right.
But a lot of them, some of the doors, if you got to it and it was fully closed, no matter how strong you are, you wouldn't be able to open
Really?
it. It is that stiff. So there'd be like a sliding door on it, which like a sliding window, and it just like a rabbit hutch, and you just open that. It'll allow a bit of the pressure off it. You can then pull the door
Wow.
open, close that, and then back in again.
That's really extraordinary. Did you ever get kind of reflective over the fact that the power of air moving through
Oh,
this?
yeah,
Do you ever
yeah.
think about the fact
It's-
that this is almost like a life force?
It's keeping you alive. Yeah.
Just
The
flying.
force of it is, you can't describe on that. But if you was at the bottom of the shaft where they're drawing the air in, and for the first mile or so, it's cold, because obviously it's the cold air what's coming down.
Yeah.
But if you was at the other end of the spectrum, the bottom of the the shaft where it's drawing it up, it's all the stale, warm air, and that's where it's hot.
Wow.
So depending where you are in the mines, you could be working in an hot place or a cold place.
Jeez. The masks you wear, there was those kind of packs on your back and the cord. I always like him because they're like a spine.
The light, yeah.
That's the light pack.
Yeah,
It's
you'd have
got
your
a-
lamp on there, and basically you'd run the cable down under your arm and then into your battery. There's another story about that. My battery, for a couple of 3 days, every time I was down mine, I couldn't understand mine. My legs was itching and burning. Top and bottom of my battery had burst, and it was battery acid what had been
No.
leaking down my leg. And whether it's right or wrong, I hadn't been down there long, and just a crack had appeared, and all acid had leaked down my leg, and it was burning my leg. And one of these miners came up to me and he says, "You know the best way to neutralise it?" And I says, "No, I said, no idea." He says, "We'll all pee on you." And I says, "I'd sort of pull up with bloody burning." But yeah, the battery had cracked. And they're big, heavy batteries, but yeah, it had burnt the side of my backs of my trousers down my leg. Yeah. But the mask, the gas mask itself, I never ever opened mine. We knew what there was like inside, but they were self-rescue, as they were called, and it was just for you that if you needed it for gas or anything like that, and you'd crack it open and wear it. But touch wood, I never ever wore mine.
Yeah. What were you wearing underground?
For working,
Yeah.
a pair of shorts,
So a pair of shorts.
and that was it. And my belt, I'd have my 2 adjustable spanners on my belt and an hammer, and that was it.
So when you're crawling along this floor in shorts,
No knee pads.
no knee. Are you literally
They did have them then.
scuffing, cracking, scratching, grazing,
Yeah,
cutting
you
yourself the whole way?
Well, you try to.
You try to alleviate the effect, but
as best you can.
nevertheless there is
Yeah, you get a few
sharp
grazes.
floor
Yeah.
with a load of hot air collapsing and wafting along as in various geological circumstances.
You don't. It's. If you thought about it, you probably wouldn't do it.
No.
Or you just like if we was going to dismantle something, I'd just have it in my mind as I'm crawling along where I'm heading to, what I'm going to be doing,
So
get
what-
it done
what-
with and go out with.
Just as a bit of fun, what's the longest distance you crawled on your belly in those?
I would say
spaces?
probably 200 yards from one end
200
of
yards.
coalface to other, yeah. Because normally most coalface, they're not much longer than that.
No. And out of interest, from a mine's point of view, if you've got a seam which is only as high as a chair, and you've got a seam that's 6 foot high, is it easier and more economic to have a big high seam Or is it faster work? Do you get more coal out than you would a small low seam?
I would say it's probably going to be the same, because the coal cutting machines for a 6 foot high seam would be on like a ranging arm, and it's going up and down, cutting that 6 foot seam, and it's going at the same speed as that
So the gauge of the
2
tool,
foot 6 seam.
So the gauge of the cutting tool is
Yeah.
about 2'6" anyway.
Yeah.
So if it's a 2'6", it's cutting the
just
same
taking-
amount.
Yeah, yeah. So if they're sending miners down a pit, and there's, like at Broadsworth, I think there was probably about 8 or 10 faces going at the same time at different places.
Right.
So if they're all working at full capacity, whether it's a 2 foot or 3 foot seam or a 6 foot seam, you're still going to get a decent amount of return out of it.
And so when you're mining, the height of a chair, the granite, say, whatever it is above the coal seam, the rock, is obviously getting narrower and narrower and narrower. Is there a point of realisation you think, I can't... Because you obviously, it's a bit like, there was this wonderful story I read once about a bloke carrying a pig up a hill. He says, you never carry a pig up a hill. It'll be impossible. It's like a big... And the guy said, there is a way. He goes, oh, no, I don't know. He said, if you take a piglet up a hill, you can do it, can't you?
Yeah.
So carry on taking that piglet for the next month. So he took a piglet and a piglet and a piglet and a piglet and a piglet. And after a month, the piglet was twice the size, and he was still taking it up. And then he goes, carry on. And he carried on. And eventually, 6 months later, he was carrying a pig. And he had noticed no difference.
That's right, yeah.
It's a similar thing in reverse, because it's like, how do you get used to it and used to it and used to it and used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, at what point do you go, this is now ridiculous? Although I'm used to it, there is a point where it must stop. You must think, now it's too low and too extreme.
Well, if they got the equipment in there, it was, you'd work in it, whether it's 2 foot or 10 foot. You're just working it, because it's just what you did. It was your job.
I suppose there's a moment when the tool jams. And
That's the
thing
worst part.
All right, because imagine it could start on just cutting granite as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you could just carry on cutting, and eventually go, we're getting a bit of a shave here.
I mean, on the rotary machine, they'd have there's picks all the way around, like really sharp
the shearer.
tungsten.
Call it shearer.
And you'd have like a special tool. So if it was struggling cutting through the granite and what have you, at break times, you'd quickly change quite a few.
Blades.
You'd change quite a few of the picks, and there'd be something similar to this size, what have you. And they're mounted in like a rubber, but you'd have like a special tool where you'd snap them out and put new ones in, so it'd enable it to cut again better next shift.
Right.
But tell Laurence the story that you were telling us about the rock breaker. Do you know when it changes the size of the coal? 'Cause this is the pit as well, isn't it?
But when obviously the coal cutting machine is going up and down all the time, and it's cutting, there could be lumps of coal or rock coming off the size of that table, and they'll just drop onto the metal panzer, which is dragging it along the coal face, and that drops onto another metal panzer before it drops onto a rubber conveyor belt. But so when it drops onto that second metal panzer, the coal face is there. So when it drops onto that second metal panzer, which is coming this way, they have a lump breaker, for want of a better word. But this lump breaker is in a metal tunnel.
A stone crusher.
Yeah, but it's like a rotating rotisserie. That's
Okay.
But on this rotisserie, there's like pickaxe blades, and they'll probably be about a foot long, but there'll be about 30 of them on this rotating. It's about this wide, and it's rotating, just steadily going round. So as all the rocks and the coal falls onto this metal panzer, it's just hitting this lump breaker all the time, which it breaks it up into a manageable amount, so it falls onto the...
Very noisy.
Very noisy.
Very dusty.
Yeah, and it's in a tunnel,
Right.
about this high. But the bottom of the pick, or the picks, to the top of the conveyor belt is probably about that. So there's not much going to get through without it being broke up. And the times where that's when it's nerve-wracking, because you would have to crawl down that tunnel to fix it.
Right.
But you'd have your own padlock, which you would snap onto the power for that particular rotating. You'd snap the padlock on, there's only you got the key, and you'd then crawl along this tunnel with, there's no ending to it because all you can see is these blades just sticking down, which is for the lump breaker. So if you've got to go and change those picks, you crawl along there, and they'll just wind you up because they'll be tapping on saying, power on now, power on.
Jesus. You have to do it during snap time as well.
And you'd have to do it in the break time, when that 20-minute break, so you'd be working fast to try and get in there and do it, and so you've probably got to crawl maybe 10-15 yards to this lump breaker and it's pitch black because it's all enclosed, but you've got your light on, and then they just wind you up by saying they're turning power on. Yeah, it's. But you knew it was locked, but even then you imagination. You've got the key and everything on this padlock, so all the fitters and all the electricians would all have their own padlock and key. So if you ever needed to isolate something, you isolated it. There's only you got the key, so nobody else could go in. And they could cut lock off, but obviously not. You do.
Yeah.
But yeah. So if you was ever working in something relatively dangerous, that's what you'd do. You'd isolate it and what have you. But yeah. I wanted to get out. I just didn't want to be coughing cold and stuff for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
For want of a better word. It used to be a pleasure coming up and breathing fresh air.
Right.
And I think that was the thing. And I used to see that many people who had been 30 years, 40 years down the mines, and they're coughing and they're hunched over and really suffering with their health. And I thought there's got to be more to work in life than swallowing coal dust all shift.
Yeah.
So I just made a concerted effort to try and get out, and I was just applying for jobs because I wouldn't just pack in, and I wanted a job before I left, and I'd just keep applying for jobs till I got chance of one and just came out and got out while I could. I thought of my health more than anything, and
I just wonder if there's not that to stop you making the decision, but a pang gave you a pang.
oh yeah, I mean it's. I don't think you'd ever get work colleagues as I'm saying you wouldn't, as close and as loyal as that, but I think you.
Health is important.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean as you could be off for 2 weeks holiday, and at the end of 2 weeks holiday, if you were blowing your nose or coughing, you'd be still coughing cold and stuff after 2 weeks not being down there. And I mean the people I worked with when I first went down there, and they'd got pneumoconiosis, which is like dust disease and things like that.
I met someone on one of the talks who had it.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrendous. And I mean at that time you never had dust masks, or I never had a dust mask or ear mufflers or anything like that. They came out later.
I mean, do you have things like tinnitus now? And
I've just, well, I'm saying just last year I just got paid out for industrial deafness.
have you?
Yeah. No hearing aids in, but
You can hear me.
yeah, oh yeah, I can hear. I didn't even know my wife had complained.
So what did you go to? What did you do?
Well, I got a job initially, still fitting, building 40-foot trailers, Arctic trailers.
So I4 Williams sort of thing, or no? Or
It was York Trailers, the actual firm, big 40-footers, and fitting the big couplings on back of wagons and the tractor trailer units. And while I was working there, I got offered a job in finance.
Really? Finance?
And I've done that for the last 30 years.
What do you mean? Go on. How did you move? So how do they detect your financial acumen?
This guy, who I ended up talking to this particular time, he knew the girl I was going out with's family. And I used to see him regularly and what have you, and he says, well, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And at that time I was working at York Trailers, building trailers. I thought, I ain't got a clue. I said, I don't know. I said, I've got no sort of dreams or ambitions. I says, if anything, I said, I don't want to be doing this. I said, look, and he said, well, why don't you come down and see me? And anyway, he offered me a position in his office, and I just progressed. So I ended up doing that for 30 years.
Really?
And ended up in like upper management, and yeah. So I retired last year.
Right.
And basically that was a forced retirement because they were doing restructuring in the company that I was working for. I'd been took over 2 or 3 times, but I always kept my position. And then they were doing a restructuring, and I thought, I'm just going to see what pensions I've got.
Yeah.
And I decided once I'd worked it out and whatever, I'll stuff it, I'm going to pack in.
Wow.
So I just called it a day last year.
Gosh. Never looked back. Obviously mountain biking.
Well, I'm into motorbikes. I've got an old classic bike that I ride. I mountain bike and I run every day.
Good Lord. Really?
Every single day, yeah. If it's today I mountain bike, tomorrow I'll run, and I just seem to alternate running or cycling every other day. So normally be 7:30 in the morning I might either out running or mountain biking.
Good Lord. Are you living in the country?
No, I live. Where we live. It's only a small town, but within 5 minutes of running or cycling, I can be on riverbank
Wow.
and out into country. So yeah, it's not bad, but it's dead flat. It's a bit easy as regards running and cycling, but I try to do it every day, and then every Sunday I go out with my son and we'll do either a run or cycle together, a longer one, maybe 10, 15 miles, something like that.
Oh yes, you got some pictures down the mine, didn't you?
It was my last week, and I knew I was leaving because I was working my notice, and
Hang on.
so they search you a lot of the times.
Contraband.
You're not supposed to take. Obviously, you're not supposed to take a camera down. Purely and simply, it was a mechanical camera anyway. There were no batteries or anything like that, so it's not going to ignite gas. But I don't think they would have liked taking the camera down. So this particular day, I took it down. But it was a film camera. It's 1977. But it's a film camera. Digital cameras weren't involved. With the view that I wanted some pictures of me down mine. But obviously it's pitch black. You put your hand there and touch your nose and you can't see.
Wow.
So there's no flash. You can't use a flash down there. So the only way we could do it, and this friend of mine, we decided that I'd take 3 of him and he'd take 3 of me. So we had to sort of brace it on a lump of rock. So he's trying to shut it open with his finger. I'm sat there,
Waiting.
not trying to move,
Yeah.
while he gets the cap lamp, and then he's just doing this
Oh really?
to try and light up all
Really?
the area. But you sat there for, maybe, it could be a minute and a half or 2 minutes. I don't know how, we were just guessing exposures. You're just guessing it.
So say you took 3 pictures
Yeah.
each,
Yeah.
and all 3 were very good exposures. Is outrageous.
Well,
on a fully manual camera.
It was fully manual. The focusing was manual as well. So you would sit there. It was out about from here to those screens away from each other. But I took better pictures of him than he did of me.
That's what I was saying.
Because I'm sure he must have been moving camera slightly, because mine's a bit blurred. We concentrated a lot more on my face, so it's overexposed my face. If it had concentrated a bit more on outside, my facial features would have been a bit better. But I got 3 pictures out of it, and that was more than enough. But his was really good. But the thing is, we didn't know till for about 10 days after what they'd come out like, and by then I'd left it, so there were no second chance. And by the time we got them developed, and they'd come out okay, to be fair. So I was pleased with that.
That's got to be about a 2-minute exposure.
It was something. Yeah, it was pitch black, and it was just the cap lamp really. But you're trying to hold the camera whichever way with one hand, which shutter open, while you're doing cap lamp.
It's like
and
bobbing
obviously
your head and tapping your belly or whatever.
yeah, and moving all this round and trying to keep that without moving. And while you're sat there and whatever pose you're in, you can't move either.
Yeah.
And just sit there for a couple of minutes. But yeah, they didn't come out too bad, to be fair. Yeah, we're pleased with them.
Who's got a minute? 1 hour. Okay, I feel a little bit. You've got a good head, don't mind you saying.
Yeah.
I've just got to square it up a bit.
Yeah. One of the things what used to be, I'm not saying I don't think you ever get used to it, was was actually going down in the cage. That's, I mean, ours was a big cage, still 140, 70 on each level.
People.
Yeah. So, and it's like a two-tier cage.
Good.
But it was a big pit, it was a big mine.
Yeah.
But if you ever went down, if you was on the first drop, so to speak, after they'd been drawing coal, because while they're drawing coal, it's up and down as fast, really quick. If you got back onto the cage and you're the first one down, after they've been drawing coal and they just forget about it, you might drop 300 foot in space of about 3 seconds.
Wow.
And your stomach goes in your mouth. And then just put brakes on and steady it up a bit before you start going back down. But yeah, that used to make your stomach churn a bit.
That's that story where if you used to annoy the controllers in the top, then they used to put it onto that mode and like literally give them a bit of a shake.
Oh, they regularly used to do it. I mean, a lot of the old miners had just turned round and they'd go back out at pit because they could claim. I'm just trying to think of the right word. Not compensation, but he's dropped it too quick. I don't feel too good.
Oh really?
Yeah. And
duck your stomach type thing.
Yeah, and just make out that they were ill because he's dropped it too quick. And you could tell it did used to drop.
Really?
Quick, yeah. As soon as they take them brakes off, you could maybe drop 30 or 40 foot, 100 foot in a second, and then they'd probably realise and go back to your normal speed was still quick because they need to get you down there because while ever they're transporting men up and down, they're not making money.
Yeah.
So they need to get you down, get all the miners down there for that 5-minute slot, 10-minute slot, getting everybody down there, and then start drawing coal again. And then same at the end of a shift, you could be waiting for them to finish drawing coal before they'd let you back out. Because while ever there was no men there, you would.
Yeah, we're losing money. I suppose.
Yeah. So it just keep drawing coal all the time. Another story. I mean, I never ever witnessed. Well, I'm saying I didn't witness it. I witnessed the aftermath. There was a fitter who I knew. He was working on the headgear, and it's a big drum, probably 6 foot in diameter, and the steel rope is wrapped around it, round and round and round and down. And his job for that weekend, he was putting new brake shoes on because they have brake shoes in my car, exactly the same, but they work the opposite way and they clamp onto the drum. And he was having to fit new brake linings this particular weekend. I was working down pit at this particular time. But anyway, what he did was he wedged the brakes off to measure them, and you're probably looking at 3 foot brake shoes. And as he's wedged them off to start measuring it, there's the cage and the balance weight, which is, 20 or 30 ton. It started on the upward, and it's coming up that quick, it threw 3 or 4 yards of slack. He got caught up in this 3 or 4 yards of slack as it tightened back up again, so there was nothing left of him. He just 1,000 pieces. The cage came up that quick, it went through sort of 2 foot girders, cracked them completely open, and ended up right at the top of the winding gear. and we all had to go out round to another shaft to try to get out that day. There were about 1,000 miners down there, and it was that shaft then was out of work for the next 6 months, 8 months while they redid it. But yeah, it came up that quick. It just threw loads of snap. I mean, ropes that thick, and in a split second it threw the slack open, and in that split second it cracked to again. But it had got him at the same time, and just tightened up on the drum, and that was it. And he shouldn't ever have wedged these brake shoes off.
So the lift came through the girders and just went to
Yeah.
and
Oh,
basically a box went up into the wheel.
Yep, yep. The cage was wedged right up into top, and cage must be, just as in a guess, it'd be 15, 20 ton on its own. And it went through these steel girders and just parted them like balsa wood, and it was wedged up in there. So when we come out of pit, it was up there. Police was everywhere, but this girder was just broke open, and it had gone straight way up through it. And they found bits of the cage spread over 200 yards over the pit top, bits of oil flown off and everything. And it was, like I said, that pit, that shaft was closed for a good 6 or 8 months while they repaired it all. Yeah.
When all the mines were closing down and stuff, how were you feeling about all that? I mean, were you active in it anyway, or were you?
No. I mean, I'd left. By the time I remember the 72 strike, and I can remember it very plainly. But the big strike, the year-long one, I'd left by then, and I was in a different industry.
And you weren't kind of involved in any way?
No. I was with in so much as I was in finance then, and it reflected in our figures, because we'd got a lot of miners who were working, and obviously getting no wages by then. So
an example of how the web of this thing could reach out into... Exactly,
yeah. And obviously if people have got payments in finance... I mean, I can remember the 72 strike. I mean, I'd only had my car, maybe 6 months. And I remember a finance guy coming to the house, coming to repossess my car. And I says, I mean, we ended up not having an argument, but I just had a discussion with him. I says, it's there on my paper. He came to see me why I hadn't made any payments. And I says, what's it say where I work on your paperwork? And he gets it out and he says, you worked out mines? I says, yeah. I says, do you read news? And I says, we're on strike. And I mean, because I was a single fella, and only my mother, I didn't have what they called dependent relatives, so we never got strike pay or anything like that at that time. It was, if you was a married man, you did get strike pay. It weren't a lot, but a single person didn't get anything. He never got anything at all. So I can't remember, it was only a couple of months, I think, that strike. So for that period, there was nothing. And I even said to the finance company, I said, look, if you want to repossess it, it's keys, you can take it. I said, oh, you can bear with me and wait till I get back to work. And I said, I'll pay you. Anyway, they did. So I still kept my car.
So in your finance company work, were you aware of miners and their were they coming to you? I mean, was there lots of finance for people who obviously you were lending money? Yeah,
big time, yeah. And everything just got frozen for that 12 months. But at that time, you didn't know you were freezing it for 12 months. It was week in, week out, and it just extended to 12 months. So the knock-on effect for that strike was just colossal, really. Far-reaching beyond just them families, because the knock-on effect of it just spread more and more. It was a sad day, really, when all that sort of kicked off. But in one way, I was just glad I was out of it. I witnessed quite a few of the not so much the rioting, the actual confrontations between the miners and the police.
Witnessed them in how did you end up witnessing them? Were
they
everyday life?
One particular week, I mean, I remember, because I was working in this finance company, I can remember in Selby, which is it's 20 mile away, and I remember seeing all these police vans rolling up, and they were all going through town, and they'd all got the screens on, with big wire mesh screens, and there must have been about 30 of these vans. So I shot out at office and just, because they was all pulling up, and there must have been about 15 to 20 police in each one of these vans, and they all gets out with the riot gear. They'd been tipped off that, because there was a power station not far away, and all the miners was coming, and they basically just a deadlock, because all the miners was there, and all the police was there with the shields on, just shouting and bawling at each other. And you're just witnessing it, and it was just like something out of another world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that was eye opener.
Yeah, suddenly on your quiet, sleepy town, or whatever, there's almost a very strange kind of confrontation, I suppose.
Oh yeah.
Which is a part of it, you know. It's like
Yeah.
every day, a surreal moment.
Yeah.
Every day, like up outside the Happy Shopper,
Yeah.
there is guys
Oh
with
yeah.
riot shields and guys, I presume.
It was just, it was strange because I mean, Selby is just a really, really little quiet town, ever so quiet, and all of a sudden seeing these 150 stormtrooper type police, all with riot gear on, the mask, the shields, and the belting the shields with the truncheons, and it's just a racket, and the miners are there. I mean, nothing came to nothing that particular day, but obviously there was. You'd seen it on the news at different other places where there was plenty of fighting. A friend of mine, I mean, he worked Kellenley Pit, but he was a really good runner. And I mean, I've told this story, but the way he told it was fantastic. And it was this particular day, and I think it weren't Orgreave, it was somewhere similar to Orgreave, where there was probably 200 or 300, 400 miners and about 1,000 police, and it was really hot summer's day, and there'd been all this confrontation, and this friend of mine, he kept winding the police up to chase him, and they kept chasing him, but he was a marathon runner, and it took him across about 6 or 8 fields, and every time he was going away from him, he'd stop and walk, and he said, I used to fall onto the floor as if I was tired. That would make the police, who'd got all this riot gear on, thinking, he's nearly there, let's go after him again, and they'd chase him again, and that he'd jump up and start running again. And he said he got about 6 or 8 of these police about 2 miles away, and then he just took 2 or 3 lanes away and went back to his car.
No.
And these police had been chasing him, and they'd have never caught him, but the way he was telling it, he'd wait till there was about 20 yards away from him, then jump up and just start running again. And they were never ever going to catch him.
Well, he was resting anyway, wasn't
he? It was hilarious. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's some sort of cartoon, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he actually, I mean, they caught him. They didn't do anything with him. But another time, he wanted an helmet, and he picked this police helmet up, and he'd got it, and he stuffed it under his jumper, and obviously there's everything's going off. We'd got this police helmet up his shirt. And just before he was trying to go away, this hand gets on his shoulder and pulls him back and turfs him into a back of a police van. Anyway, they didn't do anything other than give us helmet back, because they'd seen him with this helmet and he wanted it for his mantelpiece. I know my brother, I mean, the first year when I went over, I mean, I really enjoyed it, and he enjoyed it, having my brother over there. He introduced me to one of his close friends, and he was talking to me this particular day, and he said, for years, he says, I didn't even know Ben had got a brother. That's my brother's name. He says, I didn't even know he'd got a brother in England. And he says, when I queried it about him, he said, well, he says, to be honest, he said, I don't think he'll be alive now. Because I used to be a bit of a nutcase on motorbikes. And by the time my brother went, I'd broke 18 bones.
What?
I broke both my legs twice, shoulder, collarbone, ribs.
Is this when you were racing bikes, or just?
I used to race them, but this was on the road.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's just go there a bit. So
between 16 and 18, between 16 years and 18 years old, I broke 18 bones.
Your mum must have been a nervous wreck, let alone you.
Yeah. I used to be
Was
a bit
that?
of a nutcase.
So, I don't want to go psycho on you, but do you think you were working stuff through?
I just like speed. I used to like. I'm slowed up now. I mean, I still got a bike
Yeah.
and I still go out on it, but I've steadied up now.
Christ.
But I think that's why I suffer so much with my shoulder, because
Yeah.
I broke this one. I think it's 3 times now. This the collarbone. So yeah, he just didn't think I'd survive, because he was there for a short period of time.
12 bone, dozen
when
crashes.
When I was in hospital, yeah.
Jesus Christ. So you were a long-haired
Yeah,
biker.
yeah, in 60s.
What do they call you around here? What were they? Was you a part,
Rockers.
you were part of a tribe?
Yeah,
So what was the music you were into? Had to be a...
it was all 60s, not so much heavy rock, because they didn't really have heavy rock then,
No.
but maybe just 60s music. I mean, it was the mods and rocker era, to be fair, and mods was all into a different type of music, but
Yeah.
probably just 60s music, which I still love 60s music.
Yeah.
That's never really changed.
So were you a part of a tribe then, or were you part of a gang?
I wouldn't call it a gang. We used to meet up, all the bikers. It'd be probably 20 to 30 of us. Would all have bikes in Retford, and we'd all meet up in the market square, and we'd all just sit on bikes chatting. And then at probably 8 o'clock every night, we'd go up to there used to be a big bikers cafe at Blythe, up on the A1,
Yeah.
and we'd all head up there in a convoy, race each other up there.
I mean, you must have been scaring the life out of the natives.
Yeah, probably. We'd end up there, but at this cafe on the A1, there'd be bikers there from all over Nottinghamshire. So there could be, at any particular time, there could be a couple of hundred there, bikes, at this, and you'd stop there for as long as you want with the view, then you'd get back and race back home, and that was it.
And
that used to be most nights, that.
really? And there was obviously lots of people getting hurt and doing mischief to themselves when they were...
I lost a few friends when I was 16, 17 on,
Really?
getting killed and that, on bikes. Yeah. But you don't.
Think about it.
Yeah.
It's part
You
of...
would say you wouldn't get back on a bike again, would you? I never ever wanted, because I've got. In fact, you met my son, I think. I never ever wanted him to get a bike ever, because I know what I'd gone through, but
you,
I don't know. He just did. I mean, he ended up with a 10 times quicker machine than I ever had.
1,000 cc's
Oh, it was a
monster.
monster. But luckily, he never ever got into to going out with a group of.
Yeah.
He only ever went out, me and him. So I was on my bike, he was on his bike.
You were doing a responsible dad.
Yeah.
Full leathers.
And we'd,
Luminous jackets.
Well, no, I don't have the real stuff. But we used to regular every weekend. If it was nice weather, we would go out
With a packed lunch.
for a ride and drop off at the cafe.
Yeah.
But wherever we went, once we'd got to wherever we were going, we'd then swap bikes.
Oh,
And
right.
I'd bring his back and he'd bring mine back. And that's what we used to do. But he sold it last year, and I was glad he did. And he actually said, he says, I'm going to get rid of it. He says, because he says, I've got away with it.
Yeah.
And he said, without ever coming off. And he says, and he's kept all his leathers and everything. And in the fullness of time, he'll probably end up. I mean, we go to TT regular, me and him.
Really, what, on the Isle of Man?
Yeah.
Really? Does he ever do it?
No, I've ridden round it, but I've never raced it. That's something else. That's yeah. You need some nerves for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, my nerves won't be big enough for that. So yeah, we spend a lot of time together, but it's never. We're still into bikes, pair of us,
Yeah.
and we still go to race meetings and watch and spectate and things like that. But luckily, he's got past the stage. He's quite happy in a car now, and have you? So,
How many children? We've got one son or...
a boy and a girl. And it was my daughter, basically, who told me about you.
Oh, really?
And she lives in Belgium.
No.
She's lived there now for the last 4 years in Belgium. I mean, she comes over regular. I mean, I speak to her regular. And it was... she'd just gone back home. She'd come home for Christmas, between Christmas and New Year, and she FaceTimed me and she says, I've seen something on Facebook. She says, I'll send you a link and have a read of it. So between Christmas and New Year, she just sent me this link off Facebook. I've still got the link, but I can't remember what it said, but it was basically Danny's name, trying to find people who worked in the mines in Doncaster and what have you. And I mean, she knew I worked out pit and what have you. So from her sending me this message in Belgium,
Wow.
I then emailed Danny that day
Yeah.
and just said, you know, my daughter sent me this link. I don't know if you're still in wanting people and what have you. And I got an automated reply from him saying that it was on holiday till 8th of January. And from that, I forgot all about it. And I thought, well, yeah, it's just die of death. And then about the 9th or 10th of January, I just got this email from Danny saying, yeah, and that's how it progressed. But
Brilliant.
like I say, my daughter in Belgium, she got to know about it.
That's amazing.
It is, and it just shows you how far things could or have spread and what have you. She got to know it way before I did.
Coming up to 24.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What time are we supposed to finish?
3:30. It's 38 minutes past.
Well, I don't think it's going to get any better.
He'll blame it on you for talking, Steve. But I know what his family's on about.
There you go. I don't know if you recognise yourself.
I'll have to have a picture of it. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible.